All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are here for the first running of XRL US, which is XRL's second incursion to Forza Motorsport 7. Here we're going to be trying to do a NASCAR league, and the first race is going to be a 120 lapper here at Daytona. Stand by for just a minute until we get the race itself underway here. All right, loading onto the circuit proper now. And they'll do one lap under pace speed, which will be roughly 80 miles an hour until they get to the start-finish line. Starting on the pole is Root Beer King, and then second alongside of him is Dino Prime 77. He's going to be driving the number 77 Chevrolet. In third position on the inside is going to be Aidman 2005 and the number 13. On the outside of him in the number 47 is Delphine Lover 69. Then in fifth position on the inside is Ample Lemming 41. TBF Matter is starting sixth on the outside. Seventh is going to be Koi Sight Snake. Eighth is going to be PPR Venom. And ninth is going to be Kinsey Retro for today's event. As we're preparing to get underway here. Nine cars taking the grid here, coming to the field here. There were supposed to be more people who showed up, but a lot of people ended up bailing in the last few minutes. Coming to the green flag this time by. And the moment the leader hits the start-finish line, we'll get underway with green flag racing here. And we're off. And right off the bat, we see movement and jockeying in the midfield, but at the front, Root Beer King is going to hold on relatively tightly to the front spot as they go into turn one. Now, Dino Prime has a good run on the outside. Oh, Moth. Root Beer King looks to the outside and has a little bit of help from Delphine. Delphine, though, is going to elect to go a little bit wide. Aiden goes extremely wide. And now as they run down the back straightaway, Dino Prime has the line on the outside. Root Beer King has now swapped, so he's on the outside, but he has absolutely no drafting help whatsoever. As you see, three teammates, Dino, Delphine, and Aiden, all freight training by on the inside. Root Beer King has no help, and he's going to have to figure something out quickly. They get really, really sideways there. Root Beer King trying to hold on to second with Delphine not being able to do a great job on it. Aiden has gone wide. He looks to help for just a moment, but not enough to do anything. TBF Matter holding on to the inside as well. And that's the cost of running here without drafting help. Root Beer King finally is able to tuck down in front of Aidenman 2005. For now, the top five are single file, though Root Beer King looks a little bit wide, as this does Matter, coming onto the back straightaway. So everyone's settled down to a nice single file line for the moment. The top three began to break away just a little bit. Now Matter has gotten to the inside of Delphine, and now Delphine is there dealing with the fact that he has absolutely no help whatsoever. Matt slots in front of Delphine, but Delphine was able to come down in front of Root Beer King. Now Root Beer King is going to try and figure out something to do. Dino to the outside, Matter to the inside this time. Delphine there with Dino, trying to make something happen against Matter. Matter does not have a teammate here, but just with a little bit of clever jockeying, he's worked his way up into the front position. Dino Prime right there behind Matter. Delphine pushing Dino as Root Beer King continues to run there in the 4th position, trying to see what he can do. Top 4 all kind of in a situation of their own. Root Beer King needs a little bit of help. The way the drafting works. Oh, and Delphine gets Dino really sideways there. And that's going to let Root Beer King get a little bit of a good run. He's going to look to the outside to try and make something happen this time. It doesn't look like it's going to work. He still doesn't have any drafting help, and that is the biggest issue right now on the racetrack. You see, he gets a good little draft down the straightaway. Dino and Delph not able to quite get everything set up. A little bit farther back in the field, though, we do have a situation between PPR Venom and Kinsey Retro. The two of them are in 7th and 8th right now, trying to see if they can do anything. Venom, oh, and Venom and Retro both run wide into the outside wall. As you see, Delphine Lover has been pushed completely out of the front group, farther up. And as he has fallen all the way back to the 6th position now, caught behind Root Beer King, he's going to try and make something happen. Because as it is right now, the lead pack is starting to spread out. And although that will help a little bit with getting good lines, it will also mean that it will be harder to properly close in on people ahead. Now Venom and Kinsey have both closed in on Delphine Lover here. So now there's a 3-car train there for 6th, 7th, and 8th. The driver in 9th position, though, has fallen significantly off pace. That is Koiset Snake. It got into the wall on lap 4, and he's basically trapped running by himself for the moment. But at the front, it is Dino Prime 77 with TBF Matter and Ample Lemming. Neither of these 3 drivers are teammates, though, which is one of the more interesting things going on here. Aiden Man is back there in the 4th position. He has Root Beer King there working with him to try and push him. And a little bit farther back, there's Kinsey Retro with PPR Venom and Delphine Lover, as the 3 of them are going to try. Oh, and there's your first pit stops of the day. 2 drivers coming into the pits, and that is Dino Prime is one of them, and he's going to be joined by Delphine Lover, and it looked like he was also joined by Aiden Man there. No, Delphine Lover's actually stayed out on circuit, so it's just Dino Prime and Aiden Man who have come into the pits, as now Delphine Lover is behind Kinsey Retro, and he's going to try and get a little bit of drafting working going with him now. PPR Venom there as well. If the 3 of them can hook up really well, a 3-car tandem will be significantly faster than a typical 2-car one. As you see, they're already closing in on Root Beer King, as Root Beer King has lost his drafting help from Aiden. Delphine Lover now coming into the pits. So we have a new 3-car draft train there. But at the front is Matter, Lemming, and Root Beer King. So we have 3 packs of 3 at the moment. Venom right there behind Root Beer King, giving him some really, really aggressive shoves. And the thing that's really going to be a bit of an issue is that they have 3 cars working together. There's only 2 working together farther up the grid. And Koiset Snake, oh, and there's a stump, and Root Beer King's around, and Kinsey gets into him, and they're both blocking the track. Here comes the rest of the field, but it does not look like it will be an issue. But a 2-car incident, and that will be the first yellow flag of the day, and it came right in the middle of green flag pit stops. So Ample Lemming and TFB Matter will be your new leaders. And that will bring us into our first yellow flag of the day on lap 10 of a 121 lap race. And for Koiset Snake, this was imperative, because this means that he will get a chance to get back onto the lead lap. As we bring up the map real quickly so you just get an idea of how spread out the field was. will likely be another lap that they will stay under the yellow flag. Also, during the yellow flag, pit road stays closed. Root Beer King is caught up. Here comes Kinsey. Kinsey has found his work, despite having, without a doubt, the worst run in qualifying. He has worked his way up into the 5th position now. Koyside Snake is there in 6th position. And here comes Delphine Lover in 7th. So they will go another lap under yellow. So we will see them taking the green on lap 12. As Dino Prime and Aidman have finally caught up to the back of the grid. So now we go ahead and turn our focus to the fuel games. As we saw, Dino Prime, Aidman, and Delphine all went ahead and decided to pit before the yellow flag. Everyone else on track, though, has not pitted yet. So we go ahead and bring up the quote damage telemetry that will show us the amount of fuel. Aidman has 91% left in the fuel tank still. Dino Prime currently is sitting at 90%. Delphine Lover, who is 7th, who pitted with them, has 93%. He pitted 1 lap later. Koyside Snake has not pitted yet. He is at 67% fuel. And then Kinsey Retro, he is at 68%. So as it stands right now, everyone up in the front can probably go until about lap 31 or so, but the drivers farther back can easily make lap 38 or 39. So already we're starting to see what will likely be a long-term spreading out of the field. Under a long green flag run, we will likely see the field get all nice and diced and spread out due to the way that pit stops are going. Now we turn our focus back to the leaders. TFB Matter in front with Ample Lemming there on the outside. They'll be coming to the green flag at the line this time. And they're back to the green. Matter has PPR Venom behind him, and most of the line is on the inside working with him. And Root Beer King goes around farther back in the grid, right off the back pretty much. Dino Prime went around with him back there, but he's back on track. He's got Kinsey Retro behind him. But Root Beer King did not get a good run whatsoever, still trying to get back underway. And he has no drafting help right now, and I do not believe they're under yellow flag. It was considered a single car incident, and we are still green for the moment. PPR Venom looking to the outside. Ample Lemming is there in 3rd position, but Venom runs really wide, nearly hits the outside wall, and immediately drops to 3rd out of that lead group. Here comes Koyside Snake. He's going to come into the picture now against Venom. He goes right to the outside. Here's Delphine Lover. He also wants to make something happen. They're nearly 3 wide coming out of the tri-oval, and somehow they all kept it together by the skin of their teeth. Dino Prime has got a mad charge on the outside. Koyside Snake is in the wall. Aidman now behind Delphine, so the two of them now have just 2 fewer cars that they're going to have to work their way up through. Oh, and Delphine's around, and there goes Venom as well, and Kinsey's in the wall. And that will bring out another yellow flag, and for Koyside Snake, and Koyside Snake is still in the wall. But Root Beer King will get a chance to properly catch up to the grid now. And everyone will be able to get back underway, but Koyside Snake is still in the wall at the moment. And now he has gone a lap down. He's still in the wall, and considering where this is at on the racetrack. Alright, there he is. It looks like he's finally getting underway, but he is now a lap down. He will have to circle around the circuit to get back onto the lead lap. So we are under another yellow flag. A very, very chaotic restart, which started when Dino Prime 77 and Root Beer King got turned coming to the green flag, but Dino was able to save it. RBK went off on his own. That meant all the faster cars in the back were trying to charge their way up through a very, very chaotic grid and led to several incidents happening pretty much all at the same time. But now TFB Matter and Lemming are still your leaders. Now it's Dino Prime and Aidenman, though, who are up in the second row. Already, Koisite Snake has already gotten about half of his lap back, so he should be able to get to the grid by the time we get to lap 16. So we are anticipating that we'll go back to green flag on lap 16 here. Kinsey Retro on the inside of PPR Venom. The two of them are sharing their position on the racetrack. Kinsey trying to recover from a dead last place qualifying position. In the points, there is a point given for the driver who advances the most from their qualifying position to their in-race position. That, coupled with the fastest clean lap of the day point, means that they're very easily, and they've already gone underway. Oh, and that's an instant, and Ample Lemon's in the wall, and Venom's gone around, and Kinsey has gone around as well. And that's a 3-car incident right off the bat there. Koisite Snake now is going to be able to catch the back of the grid, but no one in the back was able to get away properly. Ample Lemming, despite starting on the front row, just could not get going, got turned from behind into the outside wall, and when he was spinning all on his own, Kinsey Retro and PPR Venom were not able to react in time, and they went around as well. So now TFB Matter is going to be leading the pack along with Dino Prime 77 on his outside. And right behind him is going to be, in the third position, Delphine Lover and Aiden Man. They're going to be coming back to the green flag. This time, everyone should be gathered up, so we will be going green almost right off the bat. We're going to watch on board Ample Lemming right on board with him as they come to the green flag here. Venom, Koisite Snake having a little bit of an issue. Kinsey did not get going very well. Koisite Snake really holding them up. Venom and Kinsey both go around. They're staying green for the moment, though, it would appear. But another yellow flag, and that is going to compound the issues that we have here. So now PPR Venom has been dropped to the back of the grid. Drivers trying to throw it up 3 wide, where frankly they had no business trying to go 3 wide in the back of the grid, has led to our next caution. I believe this is our 5th caution in 16 laps. We were able to get a good 9 laps straight of green flag racing, but since then it's just been restart incident after restart incident after restart incident. But we are past the 1/10th mark of the race. We are back underway now. So here we are once again now. He's looking to the outside. This is PPR Venom we are riding on board with. Not able to maintain any momentum as he's falling off the back of Kinsey Retro very aggressively. Farther up though, Ample Lemming, who has gotten his way up into 7th. He sees Koisite Snake ahead of him. Going to try and make something happen to close in there, but there's even more action happening up front. Root Beer King has recovered up to 5th position. Delphine has worked with Aiden and Dino to push Matter out of the top spot. So now 3 teammates occupy the top 3 positions at this point in the race. And at the front, it's all clean air and clean sailing for Dino Prime 77. You can see Aiden Man there trying to get by on the outside, and we appear to already be back under yellow flag. As farther back, Kinsey Retro has been involved in another incident, it would appear. Sight Snake also involved in whatever may have happened there, as two of them have dropped significantly off the pace. And another lap under yellow flag, so we will restart on lap 21. And once again, we go ahead and look at the fuel game as it stands at the moment. Again, Aiden Man, he pitted earlier in the race, as did Delphine and Dino. Everyone else has not made their first stop yet. Matter has still has 51% left in the fuel tank. All these yellow flags have significantly helped with fuel mileage. So with that in mind, we could see a lot of the drivers who haven't pitted yet potentially extend their race until maybe even lap 35, 36, 37 at the rate this is going right now. While the drivers who have already made their first stop could easily make it to lap 44, 45 at the rate that we've been going with just continuous yellows. Again, right now, TFB Matter, the only guy who's not part of the Rebel Racing trio of Dino, Aiden, and Delphine. He is in 4th position. He's been able to lead some laps despite not having any help, but we're seeing now with the top 3 all being teammates, it's becoming significantly harder for him to make any serious moves in the field. Ample Lemming is also a teammate with Root Beer King, but the two of them have not been able to properly coordinate with each other on the racetrack. We've not really seen them working together very much, and has significantly hampered their abilities to move up through the grid. Coming back to the green flag here. Root Beer King is coming into the pits, and that's going to make for a very interesting scenario, as Kinsey Retro is going to bring us to the green flag. We're riding on board with him. Dino actually leads to the green flag. But Kinsey trying to make something happen. Very, very slow off the restart, though. He probably forgot to shift. So now as we look at Sight Snake, he is there behind Ample Lemming and pushed into the outside wall as Matter. That's not going to help Matter at all. Now trapped in the back there with basically no one to help him. Venom is a little bit farther back, but he has lost all touch with the lead pack now. Sight Snake is there with Ample Lemming and Kinsey Retro. But at the front, it's Dino, Delphine, and Aiden Man. These three have been absolutely unassailable pretty much since the 3rd restart. And Sight Snake is in the wall again. Back underway, but he's all on his own, and Root Beer King is actually closing in and might be able to overcome that pit stop coming to the green flag to try and work with Sight Snake and use Sight Snake as a way to extend his own fuel mileage. As we turn back our focus to the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th, as Matter has now completely lost touch with everyone ahead. Kinsey Retro is there in 5th position, working with Ample Lemming. But at the front is still Aiden Man, Delphine, and Dino. None of these three have really been able to be directly challenged as the run seems to go on. And with the way that everything is going right now, if we were to stay green to the end of this race, they could very easily win this race. One of these three could win this race by at least a lap, if not more. The thing is, there will likely be some squabbling between the trio of them trying to figure out who should actually get the win itself. But they still have 98 8 laps to figure that out. Delphine in second, Aiden in third. Kinsey Retro is there in 5th, along with the 4th place driver of Ample Liming. Again, there's not really anyone with them. TFB Matter is there in the 6th position, and this race is not going to look very well for him because he still needs to pit, and he has absolutely no drafting help at this point in the race. PPR Venom is there in 7th position, is in the exact same problem, no drafting help, and he still has to pit. Quayside Snake has recovered to the 8th position. Root Beer King is there in 9th. Now, Root Beer King still has the most recent driver to have pitted, and he has drafting help, so he will be in a decent position for a little bit of time. However, once Quayside Snake does eventually pit, it's going to be rough for Root Beer King to try and figure out something after that point. Let's go ahead and bring up the map real quickly, just kind of give you an idea as to how badly the field is already spread out at this point in the race. The top 3 are all there first. 4th and 5th is that second little dot there. 5th and 6th both running on their own. Then 7th, 8th are right here. 8th and 9th are right here. But Root Beer King has caught Quayside Snake and will actually power right around him on the inside, so he's going straight for the position. Not even going to worry about drafting. He wants the position right away. Oh, and Root Beer King has... Oh, Quayside Snake is apparently coming into the pits at this point in the race. And that means that more than likely we'll start seeing other drivers like PPR Venom or TFB Matter making their pit stops very shortly here. Venom still has 21% in the fuel tank. Matter is going to have roughly the same amount, actually a little bit more, 26%, so he's done a little bit better with his fuel conservation at this point in the race. You need to be very careful as Quayside Snake's going to be merging back onto the track up here. And Quayside Snake is in the wall again. Meanwhile, back at the front 3, this is where the race for the win itself is going to happen. Still 43% left in the tank for these drivers. Quayside Snake has gotten away once more, though. Aiden Man, Delphine trying to work with Dino here. Not really aggressive with the pushing right now. They're all just trying to hit fuel numbers, and they're not too worried about anything beyond that point. And the driver that they're closing in on that will likely get lapped a second time very shortly will be Quayside Snake. Quayside Snake. I keep saying Quayside Snake. It's Quayside Snake. Quayside Snake, but I'm going to keep calling him Quayside Snake because at this point, it's already ingrained in memory. I'm sorry. The next driver after them, though, that will likely go a lap down is Root Beer King, but Root Beer King has the advantage of not having to worry at all about fuel for a long period of time at this point in the race. As we change our ticker to the amount of time behind the leader, Root Beer King is still roughly 40% of a lap ahead of the leader, so it will not be too much of an issue for him. PPR Venom continuing to run by himself. There's absolutely no one with him on the racetrack still. Roughly a 5-second gap between himself and TFB Matter. Matter is running by himself in 6th position with absolutely no help as well. And then Kinsey Retro and Ample Lemon continue to run with each other. They are on an alternate pit strategy compared to the leaders. They have not made their first stops yet. We are now at the point in the typical Daytona race where the field is nice and spread out. Yellows, although they could still happen, become a little bit less likely at this point in the race, because everyone is so heavily spread out. And here we are, 4th and 5th position, Ample Lemming and Kinsey Retro coming into the pits now on lap 31. So now the question is, what will TFB Matter do? Is he going to come into the pits? And yes, Matter will come into the pits and join them. PPR Venom coming in as well, potentially. No, he is going to stay out for another lap. He still has 6% left in the tank, so he can turn one more lap on his own. And this could be very interesting, the battle between Matter and Venom, because they both will be pitting on different laps. And we'll be interested to see what will win, the overcut or the undercut, as Coastside Snake is in the wall again. We're going to go ahead and bring up the map once more. That number 4 that is highlighted, that is Venom. And we are going to be focused primarily on Matter in contrast. Here's Matter. He's already on the back straightaway as Venom is in pit lane now. Matt has gone a lap down at this point in the event, but he will get it back more than likely once the leaders do go ahead and make their stop. That car right there at the top of the track that is not moving, that is the driver that Matter is currently racing against. He's going to try and overcome PPR Venom. He wants to stay ahead of him. And it looks like he's going to be able to do it without too much of an issue. He's already overtaken his rival in about a few seconds. Right there coming onto the track ahead is PPR Venom, and he will overtake him with no issue whatsoever. And with that in mind, this is how everything is now shaken up. Our leaders, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, are Dino Prime, Delphine Lover, and Aiden Man. 4th is Root Beer King, but he's coming closer to going a lap down. And then 5th and 6th is Ample Lemming and Kinsey Retro. But they did a very good partnering to go ahead and get into this pits. When they did, they will be able to stay on the lead lap because the 3 drivers behind them will have to pit sooner rather than later. Coastside Snake has been having issues with controller connectivity to his Xbox on at least 4 separate occasions. In 34 laps alone, he has been disconnected. As Ample Lemon and Kinsey Retro continuing their little partnership in the 5th and 6th positions. Now you do see 1st, 2nd, and 3rd trying to close in. As we go ahead and swap to right on board with Dino for just a little bit here. As we bring up the telemetry for fuel, 18% left. So the top 3 will inevitably catch these 2 cars here. So here's going to be the interesting part though. If the 3 of these drivers catch Kinsey and Ample Lemming quickly enough, they run the risk of the draft having a knock-on effect and knocking Delphine or Aiden off the back, and that could cause issues with keeping the 3 of them all properly tied together. Right now, the thing that's really helped them is that all 3 of the Rebel Racing cars have been together very strongly, not really had to worry about trying to gather back up. As it stands right now, Dino would end up being the beneficiary, potentially, if the 3 Rebel Racing cars were to split up, but he would also start losing time to these 2 drivers here of Kinsey and Ample Lemming. Again, they're already at 14% fuel. They are closing, but it's not closing quite as quickly as anticipated. And on the back, out the back with Kinsey Retro, watching Dino Prime back there behind him. As the top 3 are closing in. Kinsey still having a little bit of trouble holding on to that inside lane, but he's doing a lot better now than he was before. And at this point, this is going to be where it gets really interesting because the entire top 5, well, 5 of the top 6 have all found each other, and 2 of them have gone ahead to pit. That was Aiden and Dino, but Delfina's going to stay out another lap with these 2 drivers. And the problem for Delphine is that he ended up losing the draft of these 3. So he is going to be in a very, very precarious position. He might have just got juked out of a potential race win. Now, the plus for Delph is that he can go a few more laps if he so chooses, but with no drafting help, he is going to be losing a chunk of time compared to Dino Prime and Aiden. So now the question is, what will Delphine do when it comes to the fuel strategy? Because he has fuel to go for a little bit longer. He is coming in now. Root Beer King has come in as well. There goes Matter. Delphine is still your leader for the moment, but we are anticipating that Dino Prime and Aiden Man will overtake him. We're getting word. We were not able to get a great view on it, sadly, because of the camera angles, but it looks like Delphine was not able to make it into the pits along with Aiden and Dino, and because of that, he is going to lose not only the lead, but will likely lose touch with these lead 2. Dino and Aiden scoot on by without issue. Now it looks like that's over. Unless Aiden decides to abandon Dino and pick up Delphine and try and make something work between the 2 of them, that might be the race itself decided unless we have a yellow flag. Ample Lemming and Kinsey Retro, though, staying on the lead lap, and they were able to stay pretty close to nose and tail that entire time. So no issue for them for the moment. But now the situation becomes these 2 drivers will have to pit inevitably. The rest of the field will not. Everyone's going to have to pit at least 2 to 3 more times in this race. That is inevitable. However, as it is right now, these 2 are the only drivers in a position to potentially counter the Rebel Racing trifecta at the front. And with Delphine Lover having lost the top 2, it could make things further interesting if these 2 catch Delphine and the 3 of them end up making a 3-car train of their own against Dino and Aiden. But again, because of the way the fuel mileage is currently set up, that 3-car train would not last for a significant period of the race. Root Beer King has gotten back on the lead lap. He made a decision to come in and pit along with Delphine Lover. Actually, he pitted on the same lap that Dino and Aiden pitted, but because he was so far back, it looked more like he pitted on the same lap as Delphine. He is on the same fuel strategy as the leaders at this point in the race. However, unlike our top 2, he does not have any drafting help whatsoever, and he's almost an entire lap down to the leaders. It's going to be extremely difficult for Root Beer King to actually make anything happen at this point in the event. A little bit farther up the order is PPR Venom. Venom continuing to basically run by himself. Now he sees Koiside Snake up there, and he might be able to work with him and get a little bit of draft going between the 2 of them for a brief period of time. And if that could work, he would be able to utilize that to close in on TFB Matter for a bit. And potentially try and mount a charge against Matter, who is roughly 5 seconds ahead of Venom at the moment. Again, the help with draft is immense here. But the question is first, can Venom even close in enough on Koiside Snake? And then, after closing in, will he be able to do enough to actually close in on Matt afterwards? Right now, the fastest lap in the race goes to Aiden Man, but Aiden has basically been in the draft the entire day. The point for the fastest clean lap in the race will inevitably go to someone else who's not in the top 2. Maybe Delphine Lover, because he's been running by himself for a significant period of time by now. Although I say that, and it looks like Aiden Man has abandoned Dino for the top spot, and he has decided to drop back and pick up Delphine. So this is going to be very interesting because now Dino has no help. Delphine and Aiden are slightly off sync with each other in pit stops by a single lap. And the two of them will have momentum that if they so choose, they might be able to mount a charge and overtake Dino for the lead position. Now, if they would actually commit to doing that is yet to be seen. They are roughly about 2 seconds off of the leaders. But we are seeing inter-team battles being played, and the big thing that this will help is it will help Ample Lemming and Kinsey Retro because they will be closing in on the leader this entire time because Dino Prime will have no drafting help. Going through turns 1 and 2, you can see how quickly the two leaders are closing in on Dino. Now, actually being able to get by him is going to be a different issue. Dino has experience at this racetrack. He has won here on the high banks of Daytona. Neither Aiden or Delphine have recorded a win in a league race at Daytona. Although there was an exhibition race to kind of showcase that this series could succeed within XRL, and Aiden Man did win that in a 3-wide finish. One of those drivers he beat was Dino Prime 77. So here we are, they're closing in on the leader now, and we will likely see them trying to make a move to potentially overtake in the next 3 laps. Now, there is still a possibility that they'll just line up behind Dino and not worry otherwise, but if I was in their position, with how spread out the field is, I would continue to go and just try and push my way around the leader and try to leave Dino in the dust. Aiden closing in behind Dino. This is the most momentum he's going to have this entire day. What is he going to do? Now, it looks like there's the answer. There's not going to be any fighting between the three of them for the moment. Aiden falls in line behind Dino and will not make any move at the moment. So with that in mind, the top 3 resume their place at the top of the grid. And the only way that we'll see a different winner at this point now goes back to either a yellow flag or an issue elsewhere on the track with fuel conservation and fuel strategy. That car farther up in the order that you see ahead of Dino is Root Beer King. He is not yet a lap down, but with no drafting help, the amount of time until he goes a lap down is inevitable. He is on was basically the same fuel strat as the leader, so he has no chance to really, he no longer has a chance to get off sequence of them. Kinsey Retro and Ample Lemming are continuing to run with each other there in 4th and 5th position. Venom still nowhere close to being able to catch Matter. In fact, as we go ahead and go back to the time intervals between drivers, you can see Venom, he has closed a little bit. He's now only 4 seconds out from Matter at this point in the race. And the thing for Matter, for both Matter and Venom, is that I said Snake is in the wall again. Matter should probably consider letting off a bit to let Venom catch up and then use the draft to drag the two of them up a little bit in the order. There is still a chance that they might be able to close in on the leaders, considering if they were able to sync up together, as they are on their own unique pit stop strategy compared to 4th and 5th and the top 3. Real quickly, as we're going to go ahead and bring up the telemetry for their fuel mileage, Venom has 39% left in the tank, and the driver ahead of him, TFB Matter, is in a similar position. He has 35%, so a little bit less. Kinsey Retro is there with 4th place Ample Lemming. They have 32% in their tank each at the moment, and that would mean that they will be able to go a little will have to pit a little bit sooner than these drivers, our top three, Delphine Lover, Aiden Man, and Dino, because they all have 58% to 55% left in their tank at the moment. They're all closing in on Root Beer King, and Root Beer King, as we said, is on a very similar strategy, almost down to the lap. He is at 57%, so he is going to be in a very frustrating position because there's not really anything Root Beer King can do at this point. He has no drafting help, and he is liable to go a lap down unless there ends up being a yellow flag to gather the field back up. It might be interesting to see if Aiden or Delphine decide to try and use this lapped car as a pick to try and get by Dino Prime for the race lead. Again, two cars would easily be faster than a third car, and all Aiden and Delphine would have to do would be to back off a few seconds, then hook up and try to get a massive run against Dino. They had that chance earlier, but they elected to stay in a trio for the moment. There might be potential plans to stay as a trio until later on and try to use the way the last pit stop cycle of the day will fall to try and break everything up. Delphine has to be extremely careful because if the top three stay in the draft with Root Beer King for long enough, he will likely end up falling off the back of the train. How will Root Beer King end up handling this scenario with the leaders bearing down on him? He holds the inside for the moment. Dino Prime and Aiden going to the outside line. Delphine's right there behind. He's going to follow on the outside. Aiden already is squeezing by without too much of an issue, and Delphine will be following suit shortly. Again, no drafting help from Root Beer King. The entire field seems to be trying to fright him on the outside. Delphine comes down low to get a nice bit of a draft off of him. He's not going to stay behind the lapped car for any serious period of time. He's going to stick on the outside. Dino and Aiden holding on the outside to try and keep Delphine with them. Root Beer King, just by denying the inside lane, is really hampering their abilities to properly get by him, but it looks like they're going to be able to do it, be able to complete it going down the straightaway this time. Now for Root Beer King, there is a small advantage in this because he was able to hold on to the lead for some period of time, and he will be able to be right there behind the top three. He'll have the draft off them for a little bit of time. If he can just stay with them for a bit, he might be able to close in on 7th place position, because 7th is PPR Venom right there. You can see the leaders closing. If Root Beer King can keep a little bit of draft with the top three, he might have a chance to catch Venom and try and overtake him for a position or work with him on fuel strategy. Venom is now close to 3.2 seconds behind TFB Matter at this point in the event. Does Root Beer King still have any draft off the leaders? Regrettably, it seems that the answer is yes, but not enough to actually benefit him in any way. And it's likely he will lose the leaders draft completely by the time they actually catch PPR Venom. Venom has closed the gap between himself and Matter to about 3.1 seconds at this stage in the race. Ample Lemming and Kinsey have fallen to 14 seconds off of the leaders. It looks like actually, if anything, Kinsey might have lost touch a little bit with Ample Lemming. And if so, that's going to spell doom for any chance that anyone has of overtaking Dino. And it looks like Dino will end up leading the rest of this race to the end, unless Delphine or Aiden try something in the closing laps. PPR Venom is now close to 2.9 seconds out from TFB Matter. However, he is not in a position to really do anything to him because he's going to have to worry about trying to stay on the lead lap very shortly. And again, it's like going to be the same thing we saw earlier. He has no drafting help. Riding on board with Venom, and he's going to just come right into the pits. Matter came into the pits along with him the lap before, so they both will go a lap down at this point in the race. And farther back, it looks like we have also had our 4th place driver, Kinsey Retro, go ahead and come into the pits as well. What happened to Lemming that dropped him to 5th? He has so Lemming has abandoned Kinsey Retro and has now caught Root Beer King. They're on the same lap at the moment. However, they're on the same lap at the moment. However, they are on different fuel strategies. For Kinsey Retro, that's going to spell potential doom because he will be without a drafting help likely for the rest of this race. Rupert King will easily go around the outside of Kinsey Retro. Ample Lemming will try and squeak by on the inside. Kinsey will be able to fall back in line behind Lemming. And these two now have effectively, well, Kinsey's lost Lemming again. So these three are just too spread out to actually utilize the draft on each other. And that means, for all intents and purposes, I'm going to be honest, this race is over. Unless there ends up being a yellow flag, this race is, for all intents and purposes, over. Because absolutely no one can seem to figure out how to work the draft outside of the 3 Rebel Racing drivers. As we are at this point in the race at a position where everyone except the top 3 is a lap down. Kosiat Snake very nearly causing an issue there. The controller disconnectivity continues to hamper him throughout this event. And now there we are. Our top 3 are all coming into the pits at the same time. I'll be interested to see if they all will maintain their top 3, their positions and ordering in the top 3 when they get back onto the racetrack. Yep, it seems like so. Root Beer King will now be on the lead lap, but only for the briefest of moments. Because he is pitting and will go inevitably a lap down right afterwards. Ample Lemming and Kinsey Retro will hold on to the lead lap for a little bit longer. But as we bring up the map, you can see already as it stands, Ample Lemming is roughly half a lap down, and that will only continue to work against him as this race goes on because he has to pit sooner than the top 3 do. Here's TFB Matter. Matter has finally hooked up with PPR Venom, But with over half the race in the books already, it might be a case of too little, too late. They're already both lapped down, and although they'll likely be able to overtake the drivers in 4th and 5th, they will be struggling to actually do anything to the leaders themselves. Not to mention, when it comes to fuel, they also will have to pit well sooner than the leaders. As it stands right now, a little bit less than 80% fuel in both of their tanks. This continues to be the thing of interest. How long will Aiden and Delphine hide out behind Dino for this race? You can see Matter and Venom trying to hook up and do a little bit of two-car tandeming. However, Venom does not seem to be extremely comfortable with the car, and it's causing Matter to have issues properly lining the bumpers up. You see right there, they get there, a really, really strong push down the straightaway. Ooh, and that was a little bit tighter than I think either of them were anticipating it to be, as they very nearly wrecked there. But now Matter's on the inside of Venom, and he'll likely use this as a chance to just push his way by. He will take that position back. Now Venom ends up doing a little bit of a crossover in the tri-oval, but it's not going to matter, because now Matter is ahead of Venom. Oh, and there has been an issue farther back in the grid. It would appear that Matter and Venom and their little struggles for their position has caused a yellow flag, and that means for the first time today, in what will be almost 50 laps, the field will be gathered back up. But this is going to be a very long yellow flag because outside of the top 3, almost the entire field is a lap down, and it will be a long time for them to get back onto the lead lap. For Kosiet Snake, though, this is great because it gives him a chance to potentially try and get as many of his 7 laps down back as possible. Already, Venom, Matter, and Rupert King are all back on the lead lap. Kosiet Snake is still 6 laps down, though. As 4th place Ample Lemon and 5th place Kinsey Retro now close in to the back of the lead group. A very long run under green flag, and now it's broken by yellow, and this could very easily shake up the way this race goes, depending on how drivers act on the start and restart. Again, it will be a long yellow flag, as only the top 5 drivers have properly gathered up at this point. And Venom, who is in 8th, is still half a lap back from the lead group. So we are anticipating going green on lap 76. Kosiet Snake, who was 7.5 laps down, is now back to only being 5 laps down at this point. And if things work out for him, he might also be able to get 1 more of those laps back. Again, it's still multiple laps down, but if there are multiple yellows, the chance of him getting even farther on the lead lap will be even greater. He's continuing to circle the track at about 190 to 210 miles an hour, depending on exactly where on the track you're looking at, while the leaders are still coasting at about 80. So he will likely be able to catch the back of the grid 1 more time when they come to the green flag. And now, though, we go ahead and take a look at the fuel scenario once more. Who is going to pit and who is not? Kosiet Snake, one way or another, will have to pit sooner rather than later, and that will not help him whatsoever. Venom is at 41% fuel. Matter is at the same, 41%. Ahead of them is Ample Lemming. Lemming is at 42% fuel. Kinsey Retro is at 46% fuel. Then a little bit farther up the grid, a little bit farther back in the grid, you also have Root Beer King. Root Beer King is on the same strategy as the leaders, and Kosiet Snake runs into the back of the grid, and that's going to cause a stack up under the yellow flag. And you can see that Kosiet Snake was still trying to get all of his laps back, but it led to a multi-car stack up there as he was not able to properly weave through the leaders. Now, I do believe that everyone here should be able to get back going without too much issue, and we should still be able to hit the green this lap, but still, that will be a potential issue. Kosiet Snake is still going at full bore as the leaders are only now coming to the green. The leaders are green, but Kosiet Snake is way faster than everyone else here. He needs to figure out something to do and figure it out fast. It looks like the field has mostly settled down, though. He has caught the back, but he is multiple laps down at this point in the event. Root Beer King, who is now up into the 4th position, is on the inside with Delphine. He wants to try and squeeze Aiden out of the top spots. It doesn't matter. Aiden is already slopped down in front of Delphine. The top 3 are once again completely unchanged. There is literally nothing that seems to upset those top 3 today. Kosiet Snake is way faster than the drivers behind, though, and that could be very interesting to watch, because not only is he faster than the drivers behind, he wants to get by. He has gotten by Venom. Venom and Kinsey Retro have both slipped off the back of the grid already. And now Matter is slipping off the lead pack as well. Ample Lemming and Aiden Man and Rupert King need to make something happen. Kinsey was likely turned by Kosiet Snake. Here's Rupert King right there in third position. This is the first time that we've seen someone else in the top 3 for a long time, over 50 laps, almost 60 laps at this point in this race, as Kosiet Snake is finally coming into the pits to put more fuel in that machine. Ample Lemming and TFB Matter have teamed up in the draft. Root Beer King has peeled Aiden off the lead group, and now Delphine all of a sudden is looking to the outside. He seems to think that this might be a good chance to try and do something to Delphine. He does have Root Beer King right behind him. Will Root Beer King commit to either of these two? Not yet. Delphine slots back in line behind Dino for the moment. Matter is basically forcibly closing the group back together because he's pushing Lemming faster than those two at the front are running away. The two of them will catch Aiden Man very shortly, and then they will catch Root Beer King, and will be a little bit of an accordion effect between them all. But Root Beer King right now is trying to make something happen with Delphine, trying to break Dino's stranglehold on the top spot that he's had basically since lap, 17 at this point, I think? Delphine to the high side, but Root Beer King ends up abandoning him. Now Delphine is going to fall to the third position. Root Beer King is behind Dino. Dino has no help, but neither does Root Beer King at this point. Delphine is dropping back. He will likely try and pick up Aiden Man so they can work together and power past Root Beer King and leave him out to dry. But it will take several laps to do so. And the frustrating thing about it for them is that Root Beer King will continue to plaster himself to Dino, and that will make it harder for anyone behind to close in on them. TFB Matter has worked his way up into the 5th spot now. He has caught Aiden Man, and they are both closing in on Delphine at the same point. The big issue, though, is that Matter is not on the same fuel gauge as these other drivers around him. Aiden Man giving some extreme pushing to Delphine going down the straight. Matter to the inside of Aiden now. He realizes this is his chance to potentially break up Rebel Racing's stranglehold over the top 3 positions. Delphine is staying on the outside, trying to leave a little bit of draft to help Aiden, but Matter seems to be a little bit stronger on the inside, and he's completed the pass and will slot in line ahead of Aiden, but Aiden's going to do a crossover coming out of turn 4 and comes back to the inside. Now Matt's trapped on the outside with no help, and all that effort may have been for naught. They're still fighting for the top 2 positions, though, but Root Beer King doesn't seem to be able to figure out a way to get by Dino. And again, all 3 of these drivers are closing in rapidly on the top 2. Aiden will inevitably work with Delphine and try to muscle their way by Root Beer King without issue. The problem, though, is that Matter is there. Matter could throw a spanner into the works. If Root Beer King holds on to the inside lane and Dino doesn't, even if Dino goes high, Root Beer King could get a shot on the inside. Matter could try and follow suit on the inside and get on the inside of Aiden. This could very quickly turn into a multi-car battle if Root Beer King knows what he's doing. Matter has done a good job holding on to these 3 drivers. These 2 drivers. Everyone else has basically dropped off the face of the earth. It's gone back to what will be an eventual 5-car fight for the lead. The thing that will make it difficult, though, is that Root Beer King continues to hold on to Dino's rear bumper, and it's going to exacerbate the rate that will take for these 3 to close in. Also, Matt is on a different fuel strategy than everyone else here. As we look at the fuel numbers once more, Matter only has 11% left in the tank, but the drivers ahead of him have significantly more. They're at 32%. And ironically, this may have put Root Beer King back into play because he's hanging out in second, and these three cars behind, while they may be faster now, are not likely to be faster forever. Venom is pitting now, along with Ample Lemming. The top three are closing on Root Beer King now. The gap between second and third is close to 1.5 seconds. But Matt is running out of fuel. Matt is come into the pits already. And with that in mind, it's now going to be a question of if Delphine and Aiden have what it takes to close in on the leaders. Now here's the other thing. Dino's going to want to try and ditch Root Beer King, and he might try use the lapped car of Kosiet Snake as a pit. PPR Venom is there as well, and this could also prove to be an interesting factor because he is at reasonable speed. Dino and Root Beer King will have to take an outside line to get by him, but he will be at full speed when Delphine and Aiden catch him. Kosiet Snake is there as well now, and they're gonna have to cope with him. Kosiet Snake goes to the outside. He's not going to present nearly as much of an issue. Aiden behind Delphine. As now they see PPR Venom there and Kosiet Snake both lap traffic. Ample Lemming is a little bit farther up the grid. He will be the next driver to go a lap down inevitably. Here they are. They've caught Venom. Now, will they work with Venom and try and make another three-car train, or will they push by? Delphine right on Venom's rear, being extremely aggressive. Kosiet Snake is still in the mix as well. Although multiple laps down, he's going to have a very direct effect on these three cars. Aiden especially needs to be difficult, the way the draft works. Oh, and Kosiet Snake just ran right off the circuit. Well, that worked out in their favor. But now we are back to a scenario where we have a three-car train trying to run down a two-car train. But for Aiden and Delphine, it's not going to work forever. Eventually, the two of them will have to pit at the same time, roughly, as Root Beer King and Dino. The thing that this will help, though, this may help out Venom, because Venom will be able to close in a bit on the drivers ahead, Ample Lemming and Matter. Will it be enough? Likely not, but it will help more than anything else that they've had thus far. Kinsey Retro has come into the pits. Delphine working very aggressively at Venom while Aiden continues to hang out there as our leaders are trying to deal with the lap traffic of Ample Lemming. Lemming's going to hold the inside line. And by holding the inside line, it will deny Root Beer King a chance to smoothly move through. Dino still is going to stick with Root Beer King for a bit and get by. Oh, and Root Beer King's pinning now. And that is a very strange point because he's pitting all by himself. And that means we're back to a three-car run for the lead. Now, one somewhat advantage that Rupert King will have is that Dino will not have any help on the racetrack for a brief period of time, but it won't be like it won't happen. He's still turning laps without any help at the moment. Will he pit this lap? He is coming in this lap, and I anticipate we'll see Delphine and Aiden join him, and that's exactly what happens. Ample Lemming and PPR Venom very nearly caught each other. Venom may have a chance to work together with Ample Lemming one more time here. And the other thing is going to be, what will be the scenario for Root Beer King? Where will he show up on track in relation to these three drivers? Highlighted in that number 4 is Root Beer King. He is coming at full speed. Dino is already trying to get going. It's likely that Root Beer King might be able to catch the tail end of this group. Aiden and Delphine are actually still side by side coming onto the racetrack, and that's going to slow them significantly. In fact, it might slow him so much that Root Beer King's going to come up, and he's going to have a direct impact. He will be faster than them, I think. He is faster than both of them. And he's going to slot back in front of Aiden and Delphine. But now the situation is this. Dino has no drafting help. Root Beer King doesn't have any true drafting help as well. Actually, Root Beer King is still flying at full speed because it does take a long time. Root Beer King is going to catch Dino on pure merit and strategy alone. So despite paying a lap earlier, it looks like it's worked out for him. He has caught back up to Dino without issue. Will he try to make a move? He looks to the outside. He needs to be very, very careful with this because there are 2 cars behind him who will not work with him under any circumstance. He's got his nose in front. Aiden Man is there, as is Delphine. Root Beer King slots back in line behind Dino for the moment. Oh, and he gets Dino sideways, and they go into the wall! And now the situation has completely turned on its head. Now it's Aiden and Delphine who are leading, and Aiden is caught on the outside of Delphine. Dino is caught on the outside of Root Beer King. Root Beer King slots in front of Dino now, and Delphine is ahead of Aiden. Now Dino needs to figure out if he wants to work with Root Beer King to catch the 2 leaders, and if so, how hard does he want to push with him? Everyone should still have one more fuel stop to do, and that will be the other thing that will really shake things up. Because Root Beer King will have to pit 1 lap sooner than the rest of the leaders. Now, the other question is, will Delphine and Aiden use it to try and run away from Dino and take him completely out of the fray? Also, while all this is going on, a little bit farther back, Ample Lemmy now has PPR Venom working with them, and they will be closing in on TFB Matter as this race goes on. Kosiet Snake is in between, and he will factor in a small amount, but Matter is now in a scenario, once again, where he has no drafting help, while Lemming and Venom do have each other to draft with. They should be able to close in on Matter by race's end. As we look once more at the leaders, Aiden hanging out there right behind Delphine. They're taking the wider line on exit. It looks like they're going to try and intentionally slow down to catch Dino behind. Dino is working with Root Beer King to close in. Aiden and Delphine taking a wider line that slows them without really hurting their overall speed. That means that those 2 in 3rd and 4th are going to close in quickly. But Root Beer King continuing to be a spammer in the works. His choice to get on strategy with the leaders has ended up significantly paying off. Ooh, Delphine really wide, almost into the outside wall. So the question now is 100% on Root Beer King. What will his reaction be? He is now within 4/5 of a second of second place. He's continuing to hold the inside line, while the two leaders on the outside, Delphine got into the wall that time, so now Aiden slops in front of Delphine, and that's going to significantly harm their speed. Rupert King and Dino will be significantly faster than Delphine for a little bit of time. Delphine is going to be on the outside once more. There's Aiden trying to work with him. Delphine cuts down in front of Rupert King. Rupert King's not going to have it. He goes to the outside, and Dino's going to squeak by, and it's over for Rupert King. Root Beer King now will inevitably lose the draft. The way the draft works, it's most stable when it's 3 cars. Once you get 4 cars in a draft, the 4th car inevitably drops off bit by bit as the run goes on. And there's been no fighting amongst the top 3 this entire race. They've all been very well synced together. So for Root Beer King, I think it's easy to say this race is over, because these top 3 realize all they need to do is just drop Root Beer King, make it to where he's no longer an issue, and the 3 of them can fight in earnest for the race win. Well, as I say that, Delphine's run a little bit wide, and it's let Dino slip by. This could be the chance that, no, Root Beer King was not close enough. He was not able to get in front of Delphine in time. So now Root Beer King is back in the 4th position, and Dino has worked his way back up into 2nd. Aiden is now your leader. So now the question is, how long can Aiden hold the lead against his 2 teammates? As Root Beer King once again is already falling off the back. Delphine right there behind Dino, trying to make something happen so the 2 of them can pull farther away from Root Beer King. There's still also the question of fuel. Will these top 4 be able to make it to the end on fuel or not? My guess is that they will have to make one more stop. It will be close though, 68% with 20 laps to go, 67%. The fuel number will be iffy for these 3. They might be able to make it, or they may have to pit in the closing laps. One thing for Aiden though, he is out front, he is leading this pack, and what that means is that he is dealing with a lot more drag than the cars behind. He will be burning through his fuel faster than Dino, Delphine, and Root Beer King behind him. Also, these Delphine and Dino have not been able to work super well to push Aiden forward and get away from Root Beer King. He is still holding on to this lead fight. Root Beer King, though, pitted a lap earlier than these top 3. So, inevitably, if someone's going to run out in this top 4, he is the most likely driver to run out of fuel. A little bit farther back, TFB Matter, he's only at 43%. He has no choice. He will have to pit PPR Venom. His fuel scenario is even worse position, 39%. Ample Lemming has 40%, and his tank, Kinsey Retro, who is in 8th, has 54% and is going to go a lap down very shortly as well. And then Kosiet Snake is so many laps down that is basically impossible for him to actually get back on the lead lap and actually factor into this race. Kinsey Retro is going to hold on to the inside, and the entire field is going to try and freight train around him on the outside. This is going to get really interesting, though, because Kinsey is not feeling very stable in that machine, and that's going to stack up the top 3 just a little bit. They're on the outside. Oh, Root Beer King is going to sneak through, maybe? Yes, he sneaks through as well. So Kinsey does not end up having a super massive effect on the leaders. Kosiet Snake continuing to have issues as he is now being the driver that everyone here is going to have to deal with. Aiden's on the outside. Delphine's there. This is a scramble for the lead, potentially. They're trying to filter Root Beer King completely out, but will also gain advantages of their own. Dino has now been slotted back into the third position. Delphine is trapped on the outside. They have Kosiet Snake there. He's going to be a factor because they have to get single file or something to get around them safely. Aiden, Dino, side by side for top spot. 3 wide at the lead across the line. And this could be wonderful for Root Beer King because he's able to get there, and now Aiden is trapped on the outside without drafting help. Root Beer King is on his inside, and they're going around, and they're into the wall, and Root Beer King has just turned Aiden Man. And the top two have now pulled away a bit, but will that warrant a yellow flag? No, they're staying green. Root Beer King has got third position, but at what cost? Any chance he had at the race win is now over as Aiden came right down on Root Beer King, spun himself off of the driver's nose. And unfortunately for Aiden, that was not enough to warrant a yellow flag. So now it's going to be just Dino versus Delphine on the run to the finish here. Root Beer King in a scenario where he has no drafting help once more. A little bit farther back, Ample Lemming is in 5th position. Kinsey Retro is in 6th, but Lemming and Kinsey will have to pit once more in this race. Venom and Matter are still working together. They are going to have to figure out some way to close in on the drivers ahead in these closing laps. It will help a bit that some of the cars ahead, like Kinsey Retro, will have to pit one more time. But for Aiden Man, who has recovered but only recovered in 4th, absolute frustration, was dominating a race in OSRL for the All-Star race for the Busch Series drivers there, but late race restart, lost the lead, and ended up falling all the way to the back in very, very frustrating performance. He was in the fight for the lead, was actually leading laps late, but another win snuck away from him in the closing laps. He is now 19 seconds out of 3rd place alone, and more than half a lap behind the race leaders. He actually has a very, very slight chance of being caught by, well, no, actually I take that back because Ample Lemming has just made his pit stop. So for all intents and purposes, the race is now down to just Dino Prime and Delphine Lover. The gap they have against Root Beer King is so massive that it can basically be it will basically be a non-issue unless there ends up being a yellow flag. Delphine seems to be dropping off the back of Dino just a little bit here. And once again, we said it before and I'll say it again, the question is fuel. Will these two drivers have enough fuel to make it to the end? 12 laps to go at 41%. I'm going to be honest, it's going to be a little close, but I think they can make it. It will be a little close for them, but I think they'll make it. Root Beer King might run out on the last lap, but I think the top two will be okay. Delphine trying to make something happen to get by Dino here. Delphine not able to do anything to Dino, though. On a one-car versus one-car battle, the driver in front will have the significant advantage of having clean air and being able to defend. So Delphine is trying to basically skate uphill. Delphine looks to the inside. Dino's gone a little bit wide there. And it looks like Dino is going to fall willingly behind Delphine for the moment. see that Snake is up ahead. It'll be 10 laps to go when they hit the line. As we look at the fuel mileage once more. 32% for 31%. The number is dropping, and it's dropping fast. 31% at the line for Delphine. Oh, and there's been an accident in turn 4. And apparently Kinsey has been involved in another incident along with Root Beer King this time. But they've both gotten away, and I think we're staying under the green flag. I don't see the leaders slowing. The leaders have not slowed, so we are under the green flag still. Go see that Snake making his final stop of the day. Rough day, significant issues with connectivity. He is going to only be 10 laps down at the end, and would have been worse if not for a late race yellow. So once again, now we look at Delphine and Dino, and the question continues to be, will they have enough fuel to make it to the end? They're closing in on Root Beer King. It will be a small compensation, but Aiden will basically finish third because Root Beer King is going to, after being involved in that incident that just happened with Kinsey Retro, he's going to be a lap down. Root Beer King will fall in line behind Dino. As once again, we pull up the fuel telemetry. Delphine 24%. Dino was his fuel percent at 23. So Dino's in a slightly worse scenario with fuel than Delphine. Aiden is 28 seconds behind these two drivers, but he is on the same fuel strat as them, as is Root Beer King in fourth. We could very easily see a scenario where the top four all end up, and Dino is coming in the pits now. He doesn't want to risk it. He is pitting now. Delphine is staying on track, and he will have help with Root Beer King. Dino is going to be pitting, though, and this could be a massive element in the way this race plays out, because he pitted all by himself. Delphine is staying on track. So the fuel game is on. Will Delphine have the fuel to make it to the end? If he does not, does Dino have enough time to get back to him? Again, when you run out of fuel here, it's not like you immediately come to a stop. You will be able to coast. Dino is 24 seconds behind your race leader, and that gap is only going to continue because it takes so long to get up to pace. Dino, 28.5 seconds behind Delphine. As we bring up the telemetry once more, 16% fuel left in the tank for Delphine. Root Beer King is on the inside. He's likely going to let Root Beer King by and try and fall in line behind him to save a little bit of fuel on the straights. But again, Root Beer King's fuel scenario is just as bad, if not worse, than it is for Delphine and Dino. Dino is going to be charging. He's going to be charging hard for the end. But Delphine has draft. Dino does not. The gap is now almost 30 seconds between first and second. But we still do not think Delphine will have fuel to make it to the end. He has to wonder if 30 seconds will be enough for him to be able to coast to the line. And if there is a yellow flag, what will happen? Farther back, Dino has gotten a little bit of help. Aiden is working with Dino, but Aiden also is in the same scenario when it comes to fuel. However, Aiden is pushing Dino. The gap between first and second will stabilize at about 30 seconds. Delphine has decided to make his pit stop. And with that, the race is basically over. Dino will win this event because Delphine does not have any help. Highlighted on the board is Dino in that number 2. The number 1 on the screen right now is Delphine. So Dino is still going to win this race because he has Aiden pushing him. Delphine has no help. Aiden is going to be very frustrating for him because he's still going to run out of fuel more than likely on this final lap though. Aiden's only at 7% fuel as they're coming to the line, so Aiden is going to run out in the next lap or two. He will have to pit. And Delphine has completely lost touch with the leaders. He might still be able to salvage second. If Aiden decides to pit, Delphine automatically will advance back into the second position. If Aiden stays out on track, though, he will have to overtake him on the circuit. Aiden is down to only 4% fuel, but he's staying out another lap, and when the leaders hit the line, it will be 2 to go, so there will be no more yellow flags in this event. And for Aiden, this is going to be extremely frustrating. There is no way for him to stretch 3% to the end. He is going to run out and will lose second position. Now the question is simply, will he pit or not? If he pits, he will likely fall behind. Here's the thing, Root Beer King is about to run out of fuel as well, though. He has not made his stop yet. No, he has made a stop already, actually. I take that back. So then Aiden will likely fall behind Root Beer King again if he decides to pit or if he stays out. Here comes Aiden. He's coming into the pits now and will fall out of the top 3. But at the line, it's the final lap. White flag is in the air. Dino Prime has led 3/4 of this race and then some. Easily has led the most laps. And he's going to walk out of here with the win. Root Beer King has advanced to 3rd. Aiden Man has already come back onto the circuit now. But he has lost now 5th to TFB Matter. He will not have to worry about falling behind Ample Lemming, but Aiden will end up being out. Meanwhile, in the battle for 3rd and 4th, in the 4th and 5th, DPR Venom is trying to hold off Matter there. Dino Prime crosses the line with the win, with Delphine coming 2nd. Root Beer King will come home in the 3rd position. But this is the battle for 4th. Matter is on the outside. He's looking. They're going to be very close to neck and neck at the line, but he can't maintain it. Venom will take the spot. Then it will be Matter in 5th. 6th place will go to Aiden Man. 7th place will go to Ample Lemming. Kinsey Retro will have to settle for an 8th place finishing position. And that will bring our broadcast here of today's race to a close. A very long, drawn-out slugfest with a lot of green flag laps. But in the end, it was Dino Prime 77 who took home the top spot after dominating the majority of the race. Not without issue, but there was no issue that he had to worry about, considering he always had teammates there willing to back him up. In a week's time, this series will be running at Road America. Road America, significantly differently type of circuit, still plenty fast, but with proper braking, there's not going to be nearly as much focus on drafting or teamwork at that point. I encourage you guys to show up for that event because that's where we're actually going to get to see what the drivers really can and can't do. However, until that time, I've been saying